Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. And on this edition of Vegas Hockey Hub Recap, where we break down everything during the season, we're going to be doing the latest matchup involving your Vegas Golden Knights. And what an incredible game this was. There was a lot of ups and there was a lot of action between the Vegas Golden Knights and the St. Louis Blues. And them going on the road, starting their 4-game road trip that they're going to be doing. And really incredible. So much stuff to talk about here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, here on Vegas Hockey Hub. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. We're going to be doing this recap here tonight on Vegas Hockey Hub. So I will say, go to www.PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. Check out all the amazing content we have on the network. We have about over a dozen shows on the platform, including Vegas Hockey Hub. So my recommendation is to go to the website and check out everything we have on the network. Also, go to our social media platforms. We are everywhere on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Almost every platform you can think of, we are on it at Vegas Hockey Hub. If you want to get our videos and try to upload every single day, go to our YouTube channel. If you want to go to our Facebook, where we upload reels and shorts, where it's on there. If you want to go to our Instagram, where we upload content and all the events that we go to with Vegas Hockey Hub, or go to our Twitter account, where we do live tweets of every single Vegas Golden Knights game. And then finally, go to our TikTok, as we are connecting with the community and everything there. So that is our social media platform. Now, let's hop over to the current wildcard standings involving your Vegas Golden Knights, because it's getting really close. And with it being about a dozen games, we're at that point where, got 10, 11, 12, depending on what team you are. So your Vegas Golden Knights right now, there is a 2-point gap separating the Los Angeles Kings and your Vegas Golden Knights. Now, that's for the last spot in the Pacific Division. Now, the wild card standings, Nashville Predators, they have the number one spot in the wild card standings. Vegas, I don't see them going anywhere near Nashville, but for right now, the second wild card spot, your Vegas Golden Knights, 5 points ahead of the team they are facing in the St. Louis Blues. Now, the Minnesota Wild, they are about 7 points back in that same situation. And interesting enough, on Friday, the Vegas Golden Knights are going to be taking on the Minnesota Wild. So going to be very interesting to see what happens. I mean, later this week, Minnesota and Vegas. Earlier in this week, St. Louis and Vegas. But, I mean, this wild card standings right here, right now, it's a situation where you have the Vegas Golden Knights. There's a 5-point cushion in the second wild card spot, and there's still hope of having the third and final spot in the Pacific Division. Now, what does this mean for your Vegas Golden Knights? Well, if they were able to close that gap and surpass the Los Angeles Kings, you would take on the Edmonton Oilers, who are actually closer to the Vegas Golden Knights as well. There's only a 3-point gap separating them. Whereas if you get the final wild card spot, the Dallas Stars and Colorado Avalanche are tied at 97 points for the top spot in the Central. And then the Vancouver Canucks, who have the best record in the Pacific, 98 points on the season. So overall, for your Vegas Golden Knights, that last wild card spot is really going to depend on who is the number one seed, who becomes the top-ranked team in the Western Conference. Now, the Colorado Avalanche are most likely going to capture the Central. Vancouver has kind of locked up the Pacific Division with about 10 games left in the year. So it's all about perspective. It's all about who you have going to be the best team in the Pacific and or Central. Now, Colorado versus Vegas, Dallas versus Vegas, even Vancouver versus Vegas would be good matchups. But I've been saying over the last couple of weeks that I won't be surprised if Colorado and Vegas ends up the matchup. So that is your wild card update. Vegas Golden Knights 2 points back in the Pacific Division race, 5 points up in the last wild card spot over the team they're facing. And the roster moves for your Vegas Golden Knights. Unfortunately, Aiden Hill went down the tunnel and got injured in the most recent game against Columbus. And it looks like it's a little bit worse than it was being perceived, because Aiden Hill is now out for the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, there is no time to really do speculation. We don't know what the timetable will be. But for now, Aiden Hill has been injured for your Vegas Golden Knights, and he is not going to be starting. He's not going to be on the bench. He's not going to be a backup. So at this time, the Vegas Golden Knights lose their starting goaltender in Aiden Hill. And unfortunately, this is like the second time this year that we had an injury to Aiden Hill, and you have the backup goaltender is going to have to come in and really be the workhorse once again. And of course, that's Logan Thompson. So Aiden Hill being injured for your Vegas Golden Knights after the game against Columbus. Now, Yuri Patera, he has now been recalled from the Henderson Silver Knights, being moved up from the AHL to take the spot with Aiden Hill. Now, unless Aiden Hill is out for a considerable amount of time, what I'm going to speculate here is that Logan Thompson is going to do a majority of the starts over the next 10 games. I will be very surprised if Yuri Patera has one start over the next 10 games, depending on what the injury is for Aiden Hill. We're not going to speculate. But for Yuri Patera, this is going to be a situation where he's being recalled. He's going to be the backup for Thompson, and he might have to start one game in this timetable. Similar will happen in January, where Logan Thompson did majority of the starts, and Patera had that one start in Colorado back in January. So going to be interesting to see what happens there with Patera being recalled from Henderson. So with all of that, this means that in net will be LT. So LT will be in net going up against the St. Louis Blues. Jordan Binnington will be on the opposite side. So you have a former Stanley Cup champion in Jordan Binnington, who, if anybody remembers, we're actually going to go back just a little bit. In the beginning of December, when the St. Louis Blues beat the Vegas Golden Knights, Jordan Binnington was in net and had an amazing performance against the Vegas Golden Knights. And then Logan Thompson, who has done incredible as of late, he has won his last 3 starts in a row. So for Logan Thompson, he'll be in net for your Vegas Golden Knights. And for Jordan Binnington, this is someone who's trying to get the St. Louis Blues into the playoffs. Like I said, there's a 5-point gap, like I mentioned earlier in the show, between your Vegas Golden Knights and the St. Louis Blues. And, Jordan Binnington, St. Louis Blues, they say that there's no better place than home for people out there in St. Louis. Chicago's a little bit better, but I'll disagree. But, when it comes to Jordan Binnington and St. Louis Blues, this has been a team that, they've been on the outskirts, inside now over the last couple of years in terms of being a playoff team or not being a playoff team. So for Jordan Binnington, he will be in net for St. Louis. And then Logan Thompson, like I mentioned, with your Vegas Golden Knights, he will be in net. And to me, this is just a situation where your Vegas Golden Knights, you had to win this game, okay? Not just because of the points, not just because of the wild card standings, not just for momentum and chemistry and all of that, but this is going to be the first of a 4-game road trip for your Vegas Golden Knights where you're going to see arguably the toughest stretch, because you're going to be going up against a team trying to compete for a playoff in St. Louis. You're going to go up against a team currently in the wild card in Nashville. You're going to go up against a team competing in the Central in Winnipeg. And then a team on the outside looking in Minnesota. So very valuable there. And for Logan Thompson, this is going to be a guy who, like I mentioned before, he had a really good performance against New Jersey. He had a great performance against the Seattle Kraken. I mean, this is just a guy who has done really well when he has been in net. And considering that Aiden Hill, he started 5 of the last 7 games before he got injured, for Logan Thompson, for him to be in net now for the 3rd time in the last 5 games, this will be where Logan Thompson's momentum, and we're really seeing his confidence over this past year. I've made an argument here on Vegas Hockey Hub that he is your MVP for the Vegas Golden Knights, and his statistics over in December and January when he carried the team on his back when Aiden Hill got hurt. So with Aiden Hill being injured, LT in net for the Vegas Golden Knights against the St. Louis Blues, and it'll just be really interesting to see how they perform as a unit with LT in net. And speaking of the starting lineup for your Vegas Golden Knights against the St. Louis Blues, on the first line, you have a former St. Louis Blue in Ivan Barbashev, and then Jack Eichel and Jonathan Marchessault on forward line 1. Forward line 2, you have Pavel Dorofeyev, William Karlsson, and Michael Amadio. Forward line 3 will be William Carrier, Chandler Stevenson, and Anthony Mantha. And then line 4 will be Brett Howden, Nick Waugh, and Keegan Kolazar. So really no big difference over the last couple of games. We've seen some guys get brought up and brought down. Anthony Mantha has been between the second and third line. For example, we've also seen the fact that, Pavel Dorofeyev, William Karlsson, and Anthony Mantha have been on the same line. Then you've also seen Michael Amadio be on the same line with Chandler Stevenson. William Carrier and Brett Howden have switched places periodically. But those are your starting lineups on the forward side. And then defensively, ever since Alex Pietrangelo has been out, it has kind of been the same defensive pairings over the last week and a half. Noah Hannafin and Nick Hague, once again, really solid chemistry over the last couple of games. Nick Hague and Noah Hannafin. You have Braden McNabb and Shea Theodore, the constant of this defensive pairings out of the 3, and then Ben Hutton and Zach Whitecloud. So this is going to be the second game in a row that Zach Whitecloud is going to be with Ben Hutton. Alec Martinez, he got injured in that game against Seattle. So there's a reason why he is in the lineup once again for Zach Whitecloud. And then in net, Logan Thompson. So overall, like I said, really no big difference on the lines when it comes to your Vegas Golden Knights. And really good game. We're really looking forward to talking about everything that happened between the St. Louis Blues and your Vegas Golden Knights here on Vegas Hockey Hub Recap. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. So let's get into the matchup here. Let's get into the game itself, being there at St. Louis at the good old Scott's Trade out there in St. Louis. Now, in the first period, this would be some good action with your Vegas Golden Knights, and they would be the first on the board for your Vegas Golden Knights as 5 minutes in, Pavel Dorofeyev with his 11th goal of the season, assisted by trade deadline acquisition Anthony Mantha, and then Zach Whitecloud. Once again, back-to-back games with a point. And just like that, your Vegas Golden Knights up 1-0 in this game. And I really have to sit here and applaud Pavel Dorofeyev. He has really contributed to the Vegas Golden Knights. I like what we've seen from him. And more importantly, when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, you could tell that having a guy, a young, hustle, energetic guy like Pavel Dorofeyev on that second line is paying off massive dividends, regardless of who his line mates have been, regardless if it's been Karlsson, Stevenson, Stone, if it's been, Amadio, been Mantha, regardless of who has been on that line with Pavel Dorofeyev, you could tell that there's a big difference in the way the line works, changes when you have Pavel Dorofeyev in the lineup versus out of the lineup. So absolutely great job in this game. What an execution to really get this off and starting out right with the Vegas Golden Knights organization. And Pavel Dorofeyev, 11th goal of the season. I mean, just imagine this guy was a top prospect entering the year, and he goes from being a top prospect to being an almost everyday guy with your Vegas Golden Knights to his 11th goal of the season with your Vegas Golden Knights organization. So once again, Dorofeyev assisted by Mantha and Whitecloud. And then the penalties in this game, as a few minutes later, Jonathan Marchessault with a high-sticking penalty as he went against Kevin Hayes. He would go to the penalty box. Your Vegas Golden Knights would be on the penalty kill, and they would kill this off. So 1-for-1 on the penalty kill for your Vegas Golden Knights. Solid job by Vegas to do that. Really solid execution on the penalty kill. I applaud the Golden Knights for what they did there. So Vegas Golden Knights 1-for-1 on the penalty kill, killing off the penalty from Jonathan Marchessault. And then halfway into the first period, man, oh man, this was an interesting development as Brayden Schenn would get a roughing penalty against Brayden McNabb. And Brayden Schenn, a very unnecessary play by Brayden Schenn. He did not need to do that, but Brayden McNabb fought Brayden Schenn. And we have not seen a Brayden McNabb fight in a while, but just make sure that you know that he can drop the gloves. He did that, And just like that, Braden Shen, Braden McNabb, you had Braden versus Braden for the St. Louis Blues and the Vegas Golden Knights in the middle of the first period. And I appreciate all of that. More importantly, when it came to Braden Shen, this is someone who got not just one, but two different penalties in this situation. So he got the roughing penalty. It was served by Jordan Kyrou. And then you had the fighting penalty that he did against Braden McNabb. Just Braden McNabb got the fighting penalty just for him. So overall, this was a good fight. I also like to see the fact that you have my favorite player on the Golden Knights, Braden McNabb, him actually dropping the gloves. So overall, I like that. I like that situation. And anytime you get to see a fight in the modern day NHL, you sit there and applaud it. Now, at the end of the first period, your Vegas Golden Knights would be up 1-0 over the St. Louis Blues. And I really liked the momentum and, more importantly, the stride the Vegas Golden Knights had in this first period. You could really see that this was a Vegas Golden Knights organization who was really seeing a lot of development. And more importantly, we saw a lot of progress with the Vegas Golden Knights organization and what we saw here tonight. So Vegas Golden Knights up 1-0 in the first period. Really the only other highlight that I can mention that happened in the first period with your Vegas Golden Knights was a play that did not go as planned, but Nick Waugh, he had a shot, middle of the center circle, and it just did not go past Jordan Binnington. It just went wide, but you almost had a 2-0 situation if Nick Waugh had connected on that play, but it did not, so it remained a 1-0 situation. Now, entering the second period with your Vegas Golden Knights, the only notable highlight to happen in the second period was an interference penalty on Zach Whitecloud. He would go to the penalty box for interfering with Oscar Sundqvist. Vegas Golden Knights' second time on the penalty kill, and a round of applause to the Vegas Golden Knights because they were perfect on the penalty kill today. So a 100% execution rate on the penalty kill. Your Vegas Golden Knights 3-for-3 on the penalty kill against St. Louis. You really have to applaud the penalty kill. They have done a lot better over the last couple of games. I mean, if you go back and watch any of my Vegas Hockey Hub recap shows back in January and February, I was ranting about how many power play goals your Vegas Golden Knights were giving up. So to go perfect once again on the penalty kill, solid job on the special teams unit for your Vegas Golden Knights. And then with a few minutes left in the second period, Kasperi Kapanen with a high sticking penalty against Zach Whitecloud. So Zach Whitecloud caused the penalty in the beginning of the second period, and then he created a penalty for St. Louis at the end of the second period. So what a period it was for Zach Whitecloud. Now, in terms of scoring opportunities for your Vegas Golden Knights, Michael Amadio actually had a good opportunity. It just went a bit too high. If it would have gone down a little bit lower, if it would have been shot at a different angle, maybe it would have gone past Jordan Binnington, but it did not. So for your Vegas Golden Knights, they would be a 1-0 situation at the end of the second period. And this is just going to be an interesting game to really see what happens there. So after 40 minutes of play, your Vegas Golden Knights would be up by 1 goal. And for the remaining third period, it would go like this. There would be no penalties for either team. And despite a Nick Hague opportunity where he actually had a shot in the high slot that just got tipped, okay? If that Nick Hague shot hadn't gotten tipped, I think there was a St. Louis player who tipped it, it maybe could have gone in. But since it was tipped and it was a misdirection, it did not hit his intended target, did not go in the back of the net, and it remained a 1-0 game for the Vegas Golden Knights at the beginning of the third period. However, for your Vegas Golden Knights, some unfortunate situation would happen with about 5 minutes left in the third period. As your Vegas Golden Knights, Logan Thompson doing an incredible job in net. Once again, an amazing performance by Logan Thompson. 31 saves out of 32 shots in this game. But he did let up 1 goal, and unfortunately, it did happen in the last 5 minutes. As former Chicago Blackhawk and former Colorado Avalanche, Brandon Saad, with his 23rd goal of the season for St. Louis, assisted by Braden Shen, who fought Braden McNabb in the first period, and Jordan Kyrou. So just like that, St. Louis would tie the game up at 1-1, and your Vegas Golden Knights, unfortunately, it was just a bad situation, just bad bounce, all you want to call it there. But yeah, Brandon Saad, his goal for the St. Louis Blues, and it helped the St. Louis Blues organization make this a 1-1 situation. And just like that, in the end of the third period for the St. Louis Blues and Vegas Golden Knights, it would be a 1-1 game. And yeah, you got to head into overtime now, right? You have to head into overtime in St. Louis at the Scottrade Arena. And really interesting situation to see what would happen here. But this would be the overtime situation, is that your Vegas Golden Knights, they would go into overtime. And despite a Noah Hannafin tripping penalty, okay, Pavel Buchnevich, it was on a breakaway. It looked like maybe he'd be on a one-on-one against Logan Thompson. He would get tripped by Noah Hannafin. A penalty shot would occur, and Pavel Buchnevich would not get it past Logan Thompson. But about 15 seconds later, William Karlsson with a good setup on the play. Karlsson to Marchessault, and just like that, 39th goal of the season for Jonathan Marchessault. Number 81, number 71, and then there was an assist by number 27. I almost said 21, shout out to Brett Howden, but 81, 71, 27, and just like that, your Vegas Golden Knights pick up the victory at a 2-1 situation in St. Louis. An incredible job by Jonathan Marchessault, but I have to give a lot of credit to William Karlsson for setting up the play. William Karlsson alongside the boards, behind the back of the net. You have two St. Louis Blues defenders on William Karlsson. Marchessault gets free, skates behind Karlsson. Karlsson shoots the puck over to Marchessault. He gets it past Bennington, and your Vegas Golden Knights get a 2-1 victory and pick up 2 points. Now, I do have to mention that St. Louis picking up that 1 point, it could matter over the next 10 games, but overall, for your St. Louis Blues and Vegas Golden Knights game, your Vegas Golden Knights pick up the victory, and just like that, 2 points goes back home to the Vegas Golden Knights, and we're picking up momentum now. The Vegas Golden Knights are really starting to pick up some momentum heading into the end of the regular season. I mean, this is their 3rd win in a row. This is 5 wins of the last 7, and looking at the upcoming schedule, I mean, Nashville, Winnipeg, Minnesota, and Vancouver. So if you split that, or let's just say you get points in 3 out of the next 4 games, that means that you would have had, 8 wins out of the last 10. Or let's just say that if you have 1 overtime loss, it means that you scored 8 points in the last 10 games. So for your Vegas Golden Knights, hopefully that's the situation. But even if you split, you still have won 7 of your last 10. So there's a lot of good to talk about. And when it comes to your Vegas Golden Knights organization, the next couple of weeks are going to be very fascinating. We're going to break down every single game here on Vegas Hockey Hub Recap with your host, Ian Rachiele. Now, for the player of the game against the St. Louis Blues, you have to give it to the overtime winner himself, and that is Jonathan Marchessault. Now, 39 goals on the season. William Karlsson, 43 goals, so he is 4 goals away from getting around to William Karlsson's goal record in 2017-2018. But in this game, Jonathan Marchessault, not just the overtime winner, is the reason why he is player of the game, but his performance in tonight's matchup. The box score with Jonathan Marchessault, his stat line looks like this, as Jonathan Marchessault had 2 shots on net, one of them being that game winner. He also had that penalty in the beginning of the game, but more importantly, he had that 1 hit, he had 1 takeaway, and he did a lot of good in 15 minutes of time on ice. So overall, with Jonathan Marchessault, almost every single shift that he was in, he was a difference maker in this game for your Vegas Golden Knights. So I have to give props to Jonathan Marchessault. What an incredible season he has been having. Like I said, 39 goals on the year. Curious to see where he ends up with at the end of the season. Like I said, we got about 10 games left. But for Jonathan Marchessault, heading into the playoffs, right now you're in the second wild card spot. You'd be taking on Vancouver if it ended today, but Colorado at 97 points, right behind Vancouver. And then Colorado and Dallas, they're battling it out for the first seed in the Central Division. So for Jonathan Marchessault, props to him on the game winner and helping your Vegas Golden Knights win in overtime. So what a fantastic job by Jonathan Marchessault and William Karlsson, Shea Theodore. I have to give credit to Pavel Dorofeyev as well. He did score the opening goal in this game. So Dorofeyev and Marchessault both scoring goals tonight in St. Louis. And this is the win-loss record for your Vegas Golden Knights at the present moment. And what an incredible season it has been. I mean, what a remarkable year. It's had a lot of ups and a lot of downs, but hey, that's hockey for you. And with 10 games left, it's going to be interesting to see what the win-loss record is going to look like at the end. Now, I do have to give this disclaimer, is that if the Golden Knights win 2 more games, they will officially have had a record over 500 for the 7th season in a row. So depending on when that win is over the next 10 games, your Vegas Golden Knights having a 7th season in a row of having 41 wins or more. That is an incredible accomplishment considering it is only year 7 of their franchise history. So they have actually had a winning record every season you have been in the NHL. So that is the win-loss record for the Vegas Golden Knights. And heading into the game against Nashville, you have the first wildcard team going up against the second wildcard team. There's going to be so many actions in that game. More importantly, game 2 of a road trip and a back-to-back for your Vegas Golden Knights. So this is going to be the game against St. Louis. It just happened on a Monday. St. Louis, you beat them. Now you're going to have to go from Missouri, go to Tennessee, and play on a back-to-back and go up against the Nashville Predators, who have arguably one of the most dedicated, diehard, passionate fans. There's really the nicest way I can put it. The Nashville Predators, this is going to be a good matchup to watch in Nashville, and hopefully someone drinking beer out of a catfish. You know, to me, that's one of the best moments of hockey is seeing Nashville Predators fans try to drink beer out of a catfish, as you do in Nashville. But, you're going to be having a good game there. You have Soros, and then you have Thompson, because with Hill being injured, it's probably going to be LT. That's going to be a net for that game. So, heading into that, it's going to be exciting to watch. And until then, I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. This is Vegas Hockey Hub. Follow us on social media at Vegas Hockey Hub on all platforms. Follow the network at PR Connections Radio right above us. And until next time, I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. Follow me on social media at Ian J. Rachiele. And continue watching hockey. Go support junior hockey. And go Knights, go.